Okay, so in this video I'm going to do like a review on how I felt show one went, what I liked, what I didn't like, how I feel, what I expected and what I didn't. So I've made made a list of notes of things that they might not even make sense to me now, but in the moment I was like, this is how I feel, and going into show two, that's how I want to improve. Or I really like this and keep it this way, or just little things that propped up during. So let's get started. So first of all, my first note was vocal and physical warm-up. The vocal and physical warm-up was so well done. Like, if we hadn't have had that, the show wouldn't have been carried as well. Like, we really made sure that we were like awake. We were awake, alert. We felt in ourselves that we were about to do a show, and we just felt really prepared from that. And we started with our physical, and obviously we trusted in our company the member that we thought is most like specialised in the area of physicality and does all like warm-ups like some days for us, like really intense. So we had her do that, whilst being aware that we didn't want to tire ourselves too much because we had the show. So that exercise was about 15 minutes, and that really woke us up. It was like a lot of moving, like jumping about, moving about, getting everyone ready, getting pumped. It was more getting pumped than, we wasn't aiming to wear ourselves out. We was aiming to get ourselves pumped and be like, yeah, let's go, let's do this. And that really showed in the warm-up. And then for the vocal was thorough. We had about 10 minutes of like meditation just to centre our breathing, just to bring us like grounded, just to like bring us down to earth, and that really calmed us. And for me, I was quite panicky because earlier, about an hour before the show, my lines got changed for one of my scenes, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to walk on stage and know this. I was being quite negative, and that meditation just put me in the right mindset to be like, no, what happens happens, but you're not going to be, this isn't going to buckle you, and it doesn't mean it's going to mess up any of your other performance. Just if it does in that one scene, it's not going to mess up the other scenes. And I really found that in the meditation. It brought a new atmosphere into the room, and but the energy was maintained, and it just, the meditation was a really good thing. And going forward, I want to do that tomorrow, and I want to do that on Monday. Whether we have like time for that is another question, but I want to do that. So yeah, from there we then just did a vocal. Again, it was calming. It wasn't intense. It was intense, but it was calming. We were making sure we warmed up everything. We made sure how we felt, like checking in with our bodies, our like body, how we was feeling, and we'd done like massages, so an A and B. A massages B, then B massages A. And I was paired with Rachel, and she gave me a really good massage. That again, it made your body relax, because I think, I know I felt like this previously, but I disassociate how I feel in my head affects how I feel in my body. But when my muscles felt all relaxed and like ready, my mind completely changed, and I was like, whatever I give now is whatever I give. But about an hour before, I was crumbling that I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I wasn't going to pull it off, and it's going to be my fault if the scene messed up. But yeah, that warm-up and vocal was really, really good. And we had a song that is known by the company, that it's just been their song for a few years, obviously being an external joining into the company. It was nice for them to share that song with us and just put us into the right mind frame for that, and that's how I felt with the vocals. and yeah, the exercise to warm up. Okay, so moving on. My next point was, this was when the show actually started, was we got told that we'd get clearance when the audience came in, and once that happened, we'd then bring all our props and all our costumes and put them underneath the seating bank. There's like a gap, and all our props and costumes went there. We were told that. We never got a chance to do a dummy run of it. So, literally, when the audience were in, that was our first shot and our only shot for the night. So, for me, what I hadn't considered was, obviously, it's going to be a lot darker than when the props and costumings have been for the dress run. Obviously, they've been in the room with us, and we hadn't done any dummy run. But it sort of happened, and everyone was like, oh, like, okay, cool, like, we're only going to get one shot of this. What happens with that. I had to consider, was I being loud, where I was placing stuff. Obviously, for me, I put my costumes not all bunched together, but yeah, together. I was trying to space my stuff away from other people's so that it didn't get mixed. Obviously, I know that for Bluff and News 2 and Karen number 2, I leave as Karen, I literally come back on as Vicky. I have about a 3-second window to change, so it was important to me that I knew exactly where my stuff was. All my stuff was preset, like, and done well and to a standard. I wasn't just throwing it on the table. I wanted to know what it was, because I wanted and I want to be, for the next shows, most efficient in time. I don't want to be in the situation that my scene's happening and I can't find my costume, so I'm late on. So that was really important for me, to have everything set neatly and where I knew it would be, and yeah, that was important for me. Okay, so from that, when the show started, so Molly opens with a monologue, and the monologue happens, and a phone goes off in the audience, and that's the first hit we have at comedy. That is the first scene, and when we were underneath the bank of the chairs, everyone was sort of just really quiet and really tense, looking, and no one wanted to move. I know that I had my eyes closed. I was so tight, like, because we hadn't performed this in front of an audience. That is, what we did was such a risk that it could have all fell flat on its face. And that audience, we'd had 2 or 3 people, like technicians, coming in just to see how the show ran and get a few giggles, but we'd never done it to like 80 people. We'd never done it to a crowd larger than 5, and yet it was our opening night. It was our first night of just going through it in front of an audience, and it's literally like fight or flight, like whether it went wrong. So we were super tense, and the second we got like a giggle or a laugh, everyone just relaxed and was like, we're going to be good. But before that, it was a lot of, oh no, what have we done? Are we funny? We might find each other funny, but to an external audience that doesn't necessarily know us as well, will they find funny in the content, not just us playing characters? So that was quite an important thing to realise or establish. So when we got that laugh, it was sort of like a bit of a relax. We relaxed, but it didn't mean we were good for the whole of the show, obviously. It was a really nice moment, I think, that everyone sort of just went, and then we was all happy, and like, yeah. I think for a comedy we took it, not that it shouldn't be taken seriously, because it is a performance going to the public, but we took ourselves as though there's nothing funny in it, like what we just, what we were selling wasn't good, and what we should be doing is sell it out. Let it. We like it. We know we like it. Don't let it be discussed as something that isn't liked just because we're like, oh, we're not too sure about it. Sell it. It's your work. Like, go for it. So yeah, my next point that I wrote down was visibility of the queues. So what scene was happening next. So in the behind the seating bank, we had the list of scenes because we had 51 scenes. And with a comedy sketch show, our director said it is quite typical to just have the scenes on the side to quickly have a look, be like, right, we're here now. Where it's not, there's not so much, obviously there's a progression in characters, but as a comedy show it can switch from one to the other. It's not a structured, I guess that's what I mean. It's structured, but not in a story way. That's what I meant. So with me, I didn't want to bring my phone into the studio, and as soon as I did that was a choice because I didn't want it to go off. I didn't want it to be a distraction for me. I wanted to be alert and I wanted to be ready. And as soon as I got in there, again, same with the preset, I hadn't considered it's going to be dark, and when that happened, I was trying to see where my scene was, where we were, what's happening, and it's just good to know in case something goes wrong or someone misses a scene to just pick it up. You can't let there be too long of a pause in comedy because it will drop the comedy. Like, I've really learnt that with lighting and everything, you can't drop the pace of it. So when I couldn't see it, I was a bit like, oh no. Like, I'm trying to... What I did do was, when the AV came on the screen, if it was like a predominant white light, I could see what scene we was on, and obviously I was following it. I followed, knowing, like, from memory, I was able to be like, oh, this scene just happened, that means that was scenes just happening. But for reassurance, to have the scenes on the wall was important for me. And a few people actually just turned on their torch and started looking like on their phone, and I thought that was too bright for the audience. So for tomorrow, just sort of clicking on someone's phone using the home screen as like a light or like a dimmed torch would be so much more effective, because if we take any distraction from on the stage to us, showing that we're like literally in the aisle, it ruins it. So that was something I had noted, that I couldn't see the scenes, and obviously we could ask, but it's trying to be as quiet as possible and just make sure the audience's sole focus is on the stage, not on us in the wings or the wings. So yeah, so tomorrow, like, have something that can make it visible to me, or position it into more of the light rather than into the dark. Next one. So I could talk about this for the tech run, but we'll talk about it now. So about an hour or so before the performance, my lines were changed. So what had happened was, my line for Bluff News, or Bluff News 2, was a lorry filled with thesauruses has overturned on the M2, scattering its content everywhere. However, when we done a dress run, I couldn't get them lines out, and a lot of that I think was down to not doing like a vocal prior, or not doing an intense vocal it was quite like quite calm, but I couldn't get the lines out with that, so it was changed. That was also to do my list, why I can't to address that. And to change that, the word thesauruses then went to Chantel's character. So it was a lorry filled with Chantel says thesauruses has overturned on the M2, scattering content everywhere. So it meant that I wouldn't sort of hiccup on lines, and just, it also added more like conversation, because the reason why I got added into Bluffer News was the fact that with Kent Tucker's character saying a monologue, dialogue was lost, and like funny moments were lost where it dragged too much. So to have Chantel's character also interrupt, it changes it. It puts a new like sort of rhythm into it. It messes up the rhythm a little bit, but it keeps the audience on their toes, sort of waiting for that next bit of comedy. So yeah, we did that. I do find when I was trying to play Vicky, my lisp did become apparent to me, as she's trying to be a news reporter. Like diction, everything has to be clear, and for me, I know that I can become quite relaxed in my when I talk, and I do notice it. As I did just there. When I address it, I notice it, and for her, with the vocal, I really tried. Like, I really wanted to make sure I'm getting my mouth around every word, and doing tongue twisters really helped with that. So obviously, doing the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips, as I say a lot of like F and T sounds, and then I was doing the other tongue twister of red lorry, yellow lorry, knowing that I had to say lorry, and I was just finding tongue twisters that applied to the speech, and using that to my advantage to get on top of it. But another thing with Bluffer News was where we'd only just been given the lines like the day before. The scene is, the joke is the thesauruses, a lorry filled with thesauruses overturned on the M2, scattering content everywhere. Chantel says people were left stunned. I say startled, and it does a switching of words to just do different ways of saying stunned. And whilst on stage, them lines were literally at the back of my head. Like, when I go on stage, I just want to forget everything I know, and what comes out comes out. Obviously, knowing that I'd rehearsed it so much that I knew it'd be there, I didn't need to pre-warn myself, if that makes sense. I wanted to be in a position where I knew my lines so well that it wasn't sort of Mia giving a push of, oh yeah, this is your line now. It's the character I'm playing is my mindset, and that's who I am on stage. But unfortunately, with Bluffer News, just been given them lines the day before, the day of, I wasn't in that position. It was Mia pushing the character, and to redo, if I got the chance to do Fall of Bluff again, or say if we had more time with Fall of Bluff and had more like of the script given in advance, that I would have wanted to see how that went with Vicky actually being Vicky, not Mia playing a character. If that makes sense. I know in comedy that is a lot, it's a person playing a character, and I hadn't experienced a person playing a character. I put myself in a position where I feel like I am that character, and that's who I am. But for Bluffer News, I didn't feel that, where I joined quite late into that scene. So yeah, that not that I find that's a shame, because obviously I've learned from that now, and I enjoyed doing and playing that character. It just would have been nice to not